The Cincinnati Bengals, a team that I don't respect very much. That's why their logo was only on for like 2 seconds. But let's not talk about that. Let's just talk about the future. The Cincinnati Bengals were a AFL team in 1966 that got to the NFL as part of the 1970 merger. The Bengals would spend a long time in the gallows of the NFL until practically 1981 when things started to fall fall their way. Ken Anderson was throwing footballs like it was beach balls right to Chris Collinsworth and one others. The Bengals ended up winning the AFC title game in the Freezer Bowl, a game that was really cold. What did they say? Like minus 36 Fahrenheit or something, it felt like, or something? Unfortunately for the San Diego Chargers, they were really pissed off because they go from one extreme, the extreme hot temperatures of Miami in the divisional round, and then they had to head to Cincy for the AFC title game, which they freeze themselves to death, if you will. That I think would be one of the greatest thrills of all time if you figure it out, if you can put your mind to it. So anyway, the Bengals went to the Pontiac Silverdome to be in the Super Bowl. Sadly, though, they lost to Joey Montana and Ed Munz's Skull Snap. The Bengals try again. They decided to switch from Ken Anderson to Boomer Esiason for quarterback, and they got to the 1989 Super Bowl. They were winning the 89 Super Bowl. They had a kickoff return for a touchdown. The two things went wrong for them that day. Number one, Jerry Rice and John Taylor catching balls from Joe Montana to win the game in the final minute at Joe Robbie Stadium. And number two, Stanley Wilson, a great player, a great fullback. Cocaine, he's gone. He does not appear in the Super Bowl. That could have helped the Bengals out. The worst part about it is that the Bengals, since 1991, have not won a playoff game. They've had several massive failures. And yes, that's the team that was responsible for knocking Bo Jackson's NFL career out the window. Thanks a lot. So anyway, since they won that game, but they could not win any more games after that. It's karma, bitch. They had a few memorable games against the Pittsburgh Steelers. One that we won't count on was a few years ago when they hosted the Steelers in the wild card round, and unfortunately they let their guard down, especially Pac-Man Jones, who picked up a couple of terrible penalties. So did Fontaine Buffett, giving Pittsburgh Sean Sweezum, a Canadian, by the way, an easier path to a field goal and game over. The Steelers went to Cincy and won that game. But the Pittsburgh Cincy game I'm talking about is the 2006 game, in which the Steelers were ranked number 6, Cincy was ranked number 3. All the Bengals had to practically do was hang on to themselves, hang on to the light. And Carson Palmer was throwing balls very, very hard. And hey, you know what? It worked. Or so you would think they would work. So the Cincinnati Bengals were happy. They were the 3 seed. I know that they should have been 1 or 2. But you know what? That's hard to believe. But, the Colts and Broncos were just that better. Cincy would host the Pittsburgh Steelers. Earlier in the week, New England beat Jacksonville in a wild card game. Surprised that New England was not the best team in the AFC that year. So Pittsburgh will play Cincy. Pittsburgh defeated Cincy to face the Indianapolis Colts. Worse, Carson Palmer, even though he made a nice pass for 50 plus yards, he got KO'd by, I forget who the Pittsburgh guy was. Worst of all, Carson Palmer would feel this injury for a while, and the Bengals would feel that way too. The Steelers used the momentum to defeat the number 1 seed Colts, thanks to a Jerome Bettis stiff fumble of the ball, but Roethlisberger making a tackle on Nick Harper. That saved the touchdown and forced the Colts to go for a field goal with Vanderjack, or Vanderchoke, as people say. He just fucking choked. How the hell did Vanderchoke do that? Steelers went on to beat the Broncos in the Super Bowl. Or to get to the Super Bowl, take on the Seattle Seahawks. And somehow they took down the number one seed in the NFC 21-10. I know it was controversial in a sense. So anyway, Pittsburgh and Cincy. So I'm going to do Cincy a solid. Carson Palmer does get hurt. Like, I got to continuity. Actually, no. I can technically say Carson Palmer does not get hurt. He will play in the next game. Now the problem is they don't play the Indianapolis Colts because, well, number 3 and number 4, Pats were the 4 seed and the Bengals were the 3 seed and 1. And they do the reseeding, remember? So now we have an issue on our hands. We have a big issue because, remember, the Steelers won the Super Bowl. So the Patriots would play the Colts, whereas the Bengals would have to go to very, very cold Denver. So I'm not technically going to, if Cincy doesn't win this thing, obviously it's a no-go for the what if. But I have to keep playing through because I want to see who gets in at everyone's expense. Because Seattle will be in the Super Bowl. But maybe the Seahawks will win the 2006 Super Bowl if the Steelers don't get involved. Obviously, I have to pick. It was Keeble von Offeren, who was the guy. 50 Broncos. Oh, that game was 54 degrees and partly cloudy. Okay. So yeah, so I'll fix that, and we'll see what the Super Bowl stuff brings. So the Bengals at 11-5 will have to take on Denver at 13-3 in Denver. Jake Plummer was the quarterback for Denver. Remember, Denver in real life took care of my New England Patriots. That pissed me right off. So the Bengals go into Mile High and win 31-17. So the Bengals actually end up winning this thing. Wow. Chad Johnson, Ocho Cinco with a touchdown from Palmer. Tatum Bell gets Denver back 7-7. Rudy Johnson makes it 14-7. Jeremy Johnson gets a pass from Palmer for a touchdown. Carson Palmer looks good. Elam 40-yard kick. Chad Johnson from Palmer. Shane Graham field goal. Then Plummer to Potier. But the Broncos win 31-17. Wow. Lose 31-17. Carson Palmer. He shakes off that cobweb of being hit by chemo. Mike Anderson, 73 yards. So Carson, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. He threw less yards than Jake Plummer by 100. Rod Smith had 119 yards receiving. But Chad Johnson, 2 of his 5 receptions were touchdowns. Picks, Nick Ferguson, and Landon Johnson. Graham missed from 46 when he hit from 36. Elam missed a 45-yard field goal in Denver. That sucks. So the Bengals go to the AFC title game as a 3 seed. Now we have a problem because obviously we have to change the road team because it will be New England against Indianapolis. Both teams lost in the AFC the second round. So technically I can't favor one over the other for the Bengals to play in the title game. So Tom Brady faces Peyton Manning. Obviously it's in a dome, so nothing much. 10-6, unpatriot-like. And yet they win the game 16-13 against the Colts. So the Bengals will host the 2005 AFC title game against the Patriots. Vanderjack kicks a 26-yarder and a 45-yarder, making 6-0. Vinatieri 2 field goals. The third quarter, the Colts with a punt return for a touchdown. Then a field goal by the Pats, but with 5 minutes left, Ben Watson gets a touchdown from Brady. Ben Watson is the hero. Fourth quarter. After the touchdown, the Colts have a drive. They get to the 48, but unfortunately after Mike Vrabel sacks Manning, Edgerrin James can't do anything. Manning has a pass batted down, and Manning overthrows Dallas Clark, and the Patriots take a knee and win the game. Unfreaking believable. But yeah, Ben Watson's the hero. I guess because he caught the winning touchdown. Reggie Wayne had 100 yards receiving. Marvin Harrison had 80 yards receiving. They both beat the guy, Ben Watson, but in the end, it wasn't. Edwin James and Corey Dillon, 69 yards of rushing. Brady, 10 for 14, 156 yards for one touchdown. Payton, 17 for 25, 259, and he had a pick that he gave to Mike Vrabel. Vinatieri and Vanderjagt combined 5 field goals without a miss. Well, it was indoors. Vanderjagt actually did a much better job kicking than I thought. So the 2005 Patriots will have to take on the Bengals of 2005. And Carson Palmer. Median precipitation at 40 Fahrenheit. And the Bengals ended up winning the game 28-17. Amazing. They knocked Brady flat. Kevin Falk with a touchdown run. But Cincy, 3 touchdowns in the second quarter. Palmer to Chris Perry. Palmer to Chris Henry. And Palmer to Chad Ochocinco. Man, Palmer looks good. Palmer to Chad Johnson to make it 28-7. New England scores 10 points. But Carson Palmer proved that his injury was just a key injury. Corey Dillon, 80 yards. Rudy Johnson, 72 yards. Corey Dillon, former Bengal, couldn't make the magic happen. Palmer, 4 touchdowns, 252 yards passing. Brady did much better, 290 yards passing, but 2 picks doesn't help. And both to Delphine O'Neal. Shane Graham missed a 50-yard field goal, but who gives a fuck? So the Bengals take on the Seattle Seahawks at Ford Field, because that's where the Super Bowl was. Seattle won that thing, won the NFC, so that's why they're in. Oh, I screwed up. I have to specify. I want it to be that stadium. So it's time to go to the Super Bowl. But the Bengals win. Wow, I was wrong. I thought the Bengals definitely were going to win now. But they lost. So the Seahawks, so Jason Lundgren's Seattle Seahawks actually would have won the Super Bowl. Amazing. 42-21. All touchdowns, no field goals. I think, right? Yep. Rudy Johnson got a 2-yard run. DJ Hackett from Hasselbeck, 7-7. Chad Johnson from Palmer. That's the key in the playoffs. DJ Hackett then gets a touchdown pass from Hasselbeck. Alexander runs it in 21-14. Then another run by Sean Alexander. Jojo Efficius, remember him? He gets a touchdown from Hasselbeck, and then he gives one to Jeremy Stevens. Sean Alexander, the hero. 188 yards in the Super Bowl. Wow. Not Timmy Smith numbers, but wow. Holy fuck. Hasselbeck, 19 for 29, 277, 4 touchdowns, 2 picks. Palmer, 12 for 19, 175, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Kewon Ratliff and Delvin O'Neal picked up passes, but the Bengals, how the hell can you do that? I thought for sure it was going to be a win. We were all cheering for you. But no, that is not the case. Sorry, but it just doesn't work that way. Poor Cincy, I feel for you. Not.